is just a huge honor for me today to be podcast interviewing Mike Smith all the way from Belleville, Illinois. Dr. Mike Smith graduated SIU. What's that, Southern Illinois University?
That's correct.
Which is across the river from St. Louis?
Yes.
School of Dental Medicine in 2011. While in school, he joined the Illinois Army National Guard. He began his professional career working for a small corporation for 2 years before moving on to an associate position in a private practice office. He is currently a major and the chief dental officer for the Illinois Army National Guard and plans to acquire ownership of his current private practice office in the near future. Thank you so much for coming on my show. I don't like to always interview a bunch of old grandpa farts. Most of the podcast listeners are your age, so it's great to get, you're technically a millennial, correct?
Yes, that is correct.
So my first question is, when I look at the largest employers of dentistry around the world, like if you ask American who employs the most dentists, they'd immediately say like Heartland or Aspen or Pacific. But the largest employers of dentists around the world, I think the Chinese military is number one. Mm-hmm. The Indian military is number two. I think the United States military is number three. How many dentists currently work for the United States military?
I don't know that number off the top of my head. I can give you the number of dentists in the Illinois Army National Guard. There's only 13 of us, which is actually a bump up from just 7 that we had last year.
And I'm confused because I think of Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, National Guard. This is, you're combining the Army and the National Guard. I thought the Army was one and the National Guard was another. So what's the Army National Guard?
Well, the National Guard has actually 2 separate branches. There's the Air National Guard and the Army National Guard. So the Army National Guard feeds into the big United States Army, and then the Air National Guard is similar structure, but with the Air Force.
And does Army still stand for Ain't Ready for Marines Yet? Are those fighting words to you?
I respect all branches of the military, but I will say that the Marines don't have any medical personnel, so.
The Marines don't have medical personnel?
No, they don't.
They're taken care of by the Navy, right?
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah. So tell people what is their option? There's dental students listening. Is this something you can sign up for the Army National Guard or the Air National Guard after you graduate from school, or is this something you need to do while you're in dental school?
Well, you can join in dental school. You can join after dental school. One of the big benefits for, let's say older dentists who may be interested in joining, you hear all these rules and regulations about age limits and age cutoffs. All those rules are waived for medical personnel. So you can be 58 years old and you say, hey, I want to join the Army. You can join the Army National Guard as a dentist. You can get a waiver, work for them for 2 years, and then you get to mandatory retirement age. But, you can do 2 years of service with the Army National Guard if you wanted to. So there's no age restriction. You can join, if you want to join as a dentist, you can join as a dental student. As soon as you get your letter of your letter of acceptance for dental school, you can submit your application. You can join the Army as an officer, and then you can be an officer throughout school, and then once you graduate, you'll be recommissioned as a captain in the dental corps.
Wow. So you really move up the ranks fast. If someone just joined the Army after 4 years of college, 4 years of dental school, they could never really have a rank that high, could they?
Just having a dental degree automatically gets you the position as a captain. If you didn't have the professional degree and you wanted to join the military, you'd first, unless you went into some other medical professional or a lawyer or something, you'd first have to become an enlisted soldier and then go through officer candidacy school and a various other sequence of events to then become an officer.
Okay, well, Mimi just crawled up and sat on all my notes, so the rest of this interview is going to have to be off the cuff. Oh, now she's decided to leave. So when did you join the Army National Guard?
I joined in 2009. It was my second year of dental school. I went through my first year, and at the end of my first year, we kind of had a vendor fair, and all of the different branches of the military were there. the Public Health Corps, or Public Health Corps, Army, Navy, Air Force, Air National Guard, Army National Guard. And after paying for the first year of dental school myself, I thought, why in the hell am I doing this by myself if I can get somebody else to pay for it for me? And so I talked to every single branch that was out there. I talked to everyone. And I went home, sat down, opened up an Excel spreadsheet, took all the benefits that all the different branches offered. The Army National Guard was going to give me the most money, so I went with them.
So they paid. Did they pay your tuition sophomore, junior, senior year?
The National Guard has a scholarship program that you can sign up for, where they'll pay your tuition, some fees, and give you a stipend. And then for each semester that they do that, you will owe them a year of service. I did not do that option because the Illinois National Guard specifically, there are some other states that offer this benefit also. I'm just not sure which states they are. Once you're in the Illinois Army National Guard for a year, you're qualified for the National Guard grant, which will pay in-state tuition in full for up to a 4-year degree. So I joined my second year, and then I had my school paid for. My third and fourth year essentially got paid for by the Illinois Army National Guard grant. And the remainder of my tuition and expenses and things are being paid back by a $240,000 student loan repayment program that the Army National Guard offers currently.
So then when you graduated in 2011.
That's correct.
And this is 2016. So you've been with them 5 years now?
5 years since graduation, but I was with them for about 2.5 years while I was in school.
Okay.
I'm coming up on. In March will be my 8th year.
So you're working in a private practice too?
Yes.
So you can do both. You can be with the Army National Guard and working private practice?
Yes, you can. My National Guard obligations, you may have heard the phrase 1 weekend a month, 2 weeks a year. Mm-hmm. That's essentially what I do for them. With my position with the state, I do a lot of extra things. I currently am going in on next Wednesday and then the Wednesday after that, just to handle some other issues. And I've got some paperwork things that I do, in between patients or over lunch and things. But in general, I just spend 1 weekend a month at an Army base. I do dental exams all day. And then on occasion, we don't have any I don't have any exams to do. We do things like weapons training, convoy operations, movement over urban terrain type things. This summer was the first time my group actually did we did a simulated rescue mission where we had training weapons, and we stormed some buildings, rescued a casualty, and then we did a medevac with live Black Hawk helicopters and flew around for about 20 minutes before they dropped us back off to finish the rest of our training day.
I bet that was an adrenaline rush.
That was pretty fun.
Yeah, that sounds more exciting than my trip to the Waffle House. So now if they're training you, then you've got to be on call. So if you own a private practice, someday if some emergency breaks out, they'll come and get you, right?
Yes, that can happen. The National Guard has two obligations. You may have heard of the reserves. The reserves only have an obligation to the federal government, but the National Guard has an obligation to both the state and also the federal government. So in times of an emergency, like a flood or something like that, sometimes National Guard units are activated to help with that. I have never been activated for a statewide emergency. I do know people who have. Those are typically, at least in Illinois, it's usually due to flooding for the Mississippi River and sandbagging operations and things like that. As far as the federal government, you may have heard of National Guard units deploying overseas, and it does happen. Typically, you get a lot of advance notice before something like that happens. It's not going to be drop everything, you're leaving next week. Most of the time you have 11, 12 months, maybe even 13 or 14 months notice before you're going to be going anywhere. And one of the perks for doctors and dentists is that it's actually written into law that we can only be deployed in theater for 90 days at a time. And in theater means, if I were going to Afghanistan, let's say, you first land in Kuwait and you acclimate to the weather, you do some additional training stuff, and then you'll then be forwarded to whatever position you'll be in Iraq, Afghanistan, wherever. Once you land in Kuwait, that 90-day timer starts, and you have to be on a plane back to the United States within 90 days of that time.
So this is an alternative to getting a job as an associate with a dentist, that you grew up with up the street, or corporate dentistry. We hear numbers that almost half of the graduating classes are going into corporate dentistry. Was that your experience?
Yes, actually. Straight out of dental school, I worked for a smaller company. A dentist who used to work for Heartland kind of decided he wanted to create Heartland 2.0 and had a chain of offices, and I worked for them for the first 2 years out of school.
How's that chain doing?
Not so great right now. They have a lot of employee turnover. I actually employ a few people who used to work for them, and nothing has changed since I left.
And why do you think they were having employee turnover? Employee, you mean just the dentist or dentist, hygienist, business?
Everybody. They have a lot of turnover. It's a fairly high-pressure sales environment, which is why it was not a good fit for me. It's why I moved on from there. In general, it didn't really seem like the patient was coming first. It was more production number came first. And most of the people that I know who worked there or still work there are getting a paycheck from that particular place, but they're on the look for something that's a little bit better where they can feel like they can put the patient first.
I was talking to Rick Workman, the founder of Heartland Dental, yesterday, and we were both just stunned at how much venture capital money is flying into dentistry, starting all these little corporate chains everywhere. I mean, there's so many of them. I mean, you like all of a sudden you'll bump into one that you never even heard of, and they already have 88 locations. You're like,
right?
How do you have 88 locations and you're still flying below the radar? And I've never even heard of you. I mean, it's amazing. So, so you're 31. My oldest boy is 27. When I was your age, there was a slew of these. There was one on Orthodontic Centers of America, was on the New York Stock Exchange, and there was a dozen on NASDAQ. And then they all fell apart. Do you think, from your experience in corporate, do you think they're here to stay? Or do you think it's going to be a repeat of what it was 30 years ago, where they find out that herding dentists is like herding cats, and dentists just pretty much beat their own drum? They're not going to stand in line and march like in the Army.
I think the biggest thing between currently and previously is the debt load that students have. It costs a lot of money to go to dental school. And a few of my colleagues in the National Guard recently graduated from Midwestern University in Illinois, and they're graduating from dental school with over $500,000 in debt. And every single one of them works for a corporation. One works for Aspen, one found a job with a corporation out west. And the big thing for them is trying to be able to guarantee that they're going to make that minimum payment that they have every month. The corporate structure often offers a minimum salary. So because of the cost of education, I think that corporate's here to stay. We may not have as many corporate offices as we do in the near future, but
you need to go back to your dental school and keep telling them. I've been telling them this for years, that if you ask an American, describe someone that's worth $100 million, they'll describe some businessman like Trump or something. The truth is, 90% of all the Americans who are worth $100 million or more are 70, 80, 90-year-old widows whose husband died years ago, and they just need to start finding those girls on Tinder, and it'd be, you just got to marry right.
That's right. Yeah, that's a fantastic idea.
Yeah, I should start
start
that
it.
dating app. 100
That's a great
Millionaire
idea.
Plus, hooking up 88-year-old grandmas with 30-year-old kids. Well, another thing that is different is which is kind of ironic, where you have all these people trumping private fee-for-service practice, but they're the same dentist telling you got to buy a CEREC machine for $150,000, a CBCT for $100,000, and all this capital equipment. And you combine the student loan debt, all this capital equipment, and then the price of a practice. My God, you're $1 million in debt. And that's it was medical equipment that consolidated the physicians. They were all by themselves until they had to start buying MRI machines and ultrasound machines and all this really huge, expensive, must-have technology. Turned out that if you're going to buy an MRI machine, you better have 10 doctors working in that building.
Yeah. That's certainly a huge driver of cost.
So you're a townie.
Yes, I am.
Thanks for being a townie. So what is Dentaltown like for the millennials, the young kids?
Well, I can only speak from a personal standpoint. It's a very social thing, for me at least. I've gotten to know quite a few people. I interact with them a lot in the different forums and things. And if I see something that a friend of mine posts, I'll be more likely to chime in on that particular thread, or give my 2 cents, or disagree with with them, maybe start a little argument or something over a statement with. But it's definitely a social event.
So you've been out of school 5 years.
Yes.
And probably 20% of our listeners are dental students. I mean, pretty much all the data I have, they're 30 and under. And every email I get to howard@dentaltown.com. By the way, a lot of people say, is this really you? Yeah, I answer all my own. No one else answers my email, howard@dentaltown.com. But they're always, like I say, it's about 20% dental students and the rest under 30. And maybe like one email a month. Someone will just send an email, say, hey, I just want you to know I'm an old fart too, like your show. But what advice, 5 years out of school, talking now to the 20% of the listeners right now that are probably juniors and seniors in dental school, what advice would you give them? Because it's a nervous time of their life coming to the end of the road, and then they got to make some decisions.
Yeah. Live cheap. If you can find somebody else to pay for school, do it. I already mentioned the student loan payments that the National Guard offers. If you join after you're out for 5 years, those are still good. They'll pay $40,000 a year towards your student loans a year, up to a total of $240,000. And thanks to that, I'm going to be student loan debt free next summer, which is absolutely huge. I've been out of school for 5 years, and I won't have any student loan debt. Of course, I'm going to purchase a practice, and I'll have the practice debt, but I won't have that student loan debt over my head anymore. So get rid of your loans as fast as you can, and figure out what it is that you want to do, or what you like to do. When I was first out of school, I worked for a corporate office. They wanted me to do everything under the sun. There was some stuff I wasn't comfortable with doing. The owner was a dentist, but he would try to encourage me to treatment plan a certain way. And I didn't feel right about it, but I didn't have anybody else telling me, hey, it's okay to do it this other way, which I have to thank you with Dentaltown for, because getting on Dentaltown is really what kind of kicked me in the butt that, you're not happy here in this office. You need to find something where you can be happy and not dread going to work every day. So know what you like doing, get rid of your debt, and because without your debt, you're more free to do what it is you want to do. You won't feel the pressure to do that endo on that tooth number 15 that's got 5 canals and you can barely get down them. The patient can only open 6 millimeters wide. Yeah, if you don't have debt sitting over your head, it's a lot easier to say, just go see the endodontist.
Yeah, and you know what? This is Dentistry Uncensored, and I love saying things that just pisses off thousands of dentists all at one time. But doing this 29 years, I've never had a patient where, they had impacted wisdom teeth or their wisdom teeth were a mess or they couldn't clean them and I removed them. I've never had one person 29 years after I pulled their wisdom teeth come back and say, I miss those teeth. I have a hard time chewing back there. No one missed that. In 29 years, every time I've pulled a second molar because, I had 5 canals, there's no opening, and usually in a case like that, they can't get their toothbrush back there, this and that.
Oh, yeah.
I tell them that, the wisdom tooth is 1/6 of your surface or 0. The second molar is about a 1/6. The first molar is about a 1/3. The second bite is a 1/3. And the first bite is about a 1/6. I said, if we just pull that second molar, it's a 99% chance the next time I see you, you'll say, I don't even miss it. I don't miss it at all. And
I tell people the exact same thing.
Yeah. And I mean, you go to some European countries, they don't even, they treat the second molars like the wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
Whether it's economics, cost, cleanliness, or whatever. But when you just can't get to a second molar, then how are they brushing and flossing and cleaning it and all that kind of stuff? And there's just, and then you take someone's entire year budget of dentistry for a root canal, billet and crown at an endodontist and yourself and everything for some tooth that they're not even going to miss. They don't even chew. And another thing that hacks people off is they get shamed into always placing an implant. And then they do a sinus lift and a bone graft and all hell breaks loose. Yet they had a second bicuspid and a second molar next to that empty space. They could have done a 3-unit bridge, but now it's like a 3-unit bridge is like, you're not holy, you're not sacred. The Pope will get mad at you. But they don't, they don't want to file down enamel, but they'll throw a hand grenade and half a dead cow in the sinus. I mean, does that make sense to anybody? I mean, how come it's okay to stick a paper clip in the sinus, but you can't remove it? So, keeping it real. And I love the 2 things you said. Live cheap. There was a book that came out probably 20 years ago. I think it came out when I was your age. It was called The Millionaire Next Door. Did you ever hear of that old book, that classic?
It's sitting on the desk for the dentist that I work with.
It was written by 2 PhDs, and the most stunning part of that research is the highest percent occupation that were millionaires were teachers. And they made 1/4 the money of the surgeons, the physicians, the dentists, the orthodontists, but they were savers. The school teachers don't come out with this ego that, well, I'm a school teacher, so I should have a big house and an SUV and a Mercedes-Benz and a cabin and a boat and always take vacations. They're modest. They're like, well, I'm a school teacher. I can't live like that. And they were savers, but packing away just a little bit amount on a teacher salary from 25 to 65, they had the highest percentage of being a millionaire. And it's amazing that it's amazing how many of these dentists come out of school and they immediately buy an $85,000 BMW. They go buy a condo. They're always taking anytime they want to learn something. They don't take a $12, $18 hour course on Dental Town. They get in an airplane and fly across the country and stay in a resort and drop $3,000 on the weekend. And I mean, they just, God dang, they spend. So live cheap. And then the other one is so true. You said, don't dread going to work. Oh my God, never trade time for money for something you hate, or you're going to end up on drugs, drunk, eating Vicodin, miserable, kill yourself. 90% of prostitutes are heroin addicts. They kind of hate their job. And life is just too short to do something you hate for money. It's just a bad combo. So are you married or single?
I'm married and I've got 2 kids.
Married and 2 kids. Now, did you meet her in dental school?
No, we met while I was in high school.
Right on. So were you married through dental school?
We got married the summer after my second year of dental school, which is after I joined the Army. We were together for about 7 years before I popped the question.
So talk about that. What was it like being a married dental student versus a single, and what are the pros and cons of each? Who had a higher success rate of graduating and being all that they can be versus, because I remember in my dental school, I'm pretty sure every single person that got married while in dental school was divorced before we graduated, except for I think one couple. I think it was all but one. So what was the fatality rate of getting married in dental school when you were there?
SIU has a relatively small class size. They only let in 50 or so students every year. So I knew everybody pretty well, and I'm thinking everybody's still married. The people who ended up not getting divorced were married before they got into school, and then they got divorced and married somebody that was a classmate.
So they're married before dental school and then married someone, their classmate. So they're
Yep.
very vulnerable to marrying the people they're next to all day long.
Yes.
So their next spouse will be their hygienist or their assistant or their office manager.
That very well may be.
there's always patterns evolving. So what other
Yeah.
so you said live cheap, don't dread work, be happy. I always tell people that's my answer when they say should I buy a laser or a CAD cam or a Cerac or anything. I said, dude, if it'll make you run 20 red lights on the way to work, you can't afford not to have it. It's a high stress burnout job, and if this little toy in the bathtub, this little toy in the sandbox is going to get you excited, that's worth so much money, far beyond the price of whatever you buy. What other lessons?
Um, you know, get involved in some sort of community with colleagues. I'm on Dental Town. I'm also in a study club. I go to organized dentistry. I go to local meetings on occasion if it works into my schedule. But getting involved with other dentists, other professionals, if nothing else, to just complain. Have somebody that you can talk about things that suck at work or things that are great at work, or you can tell that crazy patient story to somebody. It certainly helps to know that other people are going through the same thing you're going through. Other people hate the same things you hate. Other people treatment plan the same way you treatment plan. And then it's always good to have somebody that you can ask advice from. It's kind of nice for me having another dentist in the office, because if there's some pathology that I've never seen before and I have no idea what it is, it makes me feel better when he comes over and looks and he doesn't know what it is either.
That's why I invented Dental Town in 1998. How old were you in 1998?
98. I was born in 85, so I was 13.
All I wanted, I had 4 boys in 60 months, Eric, Greg, Ryan, and Zach. And my God, when they were put to bed at 8:30, I just would have given anything to talk to a real dentist in the trenches. I had so many thoughts going through my head. Should I have done this? Should I have done that? And everybody that loved me wasn't a dentist. I mean, you just
Yeah.
can't ask if you should have pulled that tooth or done a root canal or you just had to talk to another dentist. When I figured out that was possible, I just thought that was just priceless for me. I
Yeah.
needed that, and that was so amazing. I want to go into something else. I'm a baby boomer
Sure.
because baby boomers are 1964 on. I was born in 62, but when you go around the world, you see birth rates plummeting. Like my mom and dad had 7 kids. I had 4. I bet most of my boys will have 2 or less. You see, they decided, like in Japan, the birth rate is under 1. It's like 0.9. And when they talk to millennials in Japan, they just say, I watch my dad. All he did is worked all day, every day until he dropped dead, and they just don't want to work that hard. They want a nicer quality life. What differences do you see of millennials? How do you think they'll do dentistry differently as opposed to my generation of baby boomers?
Well, I've got a fairly good example of it in the office where I am, because the other dentist who's in there with me is turning 69 this year. And, just in talking to him, he worked for a long time. He worked 6 days a week. Monday through Saturday, and then he dropped Mondays and worked 5 days a week. And I'm just now getting more comfortable with taking more time off to be with my family, specifically. I know more of people my age. I don't think I know any of my friends practice more than 4 days a week. And you know, if you ask them about it, dentistry is exhausting, and they want to be able to spend some time with their family. Because if you spend your entire life away from home at work, when you're on your deathbed, you're probably not going to be saying, "I wish I worked more." And keeping that in mind, you know, I always take time off for my kids' stuff at school. If there's ever a parents' day or anything special, I always, you know, leave the office and go home and spend time with the kids, because that's important to me. And I think it's pretty important to younger people in general, just to have that quality time with family, at least, and things that you enjoy doing too.
You know, almost every memory of my father was in the Sonic Drive-In when I was in there helping him. You know, if I ever wanted to see my dad, I went down to the Sonic and I would help him cook whatever from 10 on. And my hours when I opened up my Today's Dental back in 1987, the first decade, it was Monday through Saturday, 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And I still have so many memories. Ryan, I don't know if I tell you this memory. The the funniest, saddest, sickest memory I have of my oldest son was, you know, their mother would always bring him down there and they just, you know, hang out for hours. And one time, my oldest boy, he would just learn how to walk, and he had something in his mouth. And I thought, what the hell is he eating? Something from the break room, right? And I stuck my finger and pulled out. It was a tooth. Like a week ago, I had popped out this upper wisdom tooth, and it flew across, bounced on the floor, and I never found it. Yeah, my 1-year-old found it, and he had it in his mouth for at least a good 10 minutes, and I'm like, oh my God. I was telling Jan, let's track down that patient if he gets sick, oh my God, that was crazy. But yeah, you're right. They want more quality time at home, whereas my generation and my dad's generation, you wanted to see your dad, you went to the family business. Like when I was little, if I went over to any of my friends' house to spend the night, a third of them were farmers, dairy, wheat, cattle. We would go out in the barn or whatever with their dad, and the whole time you spent with your friend's dad, the dad was actually working. He was, working the farm.
Yeah.
And you just, but yeah, it's very different. So what do you, there's a lot of jokes that millennials are lazy. What do you say to that? I mean, you've heard those jokes,
I'd
right?
like to see.
Did you see that?
Oh, yeah.
Did you see that millennial joke I posted on Dental Town today?
It's today, I did not see it today.
Oh my God, it's a hilarious YouTube video. It's called the Millennial Missionary. The Millennial Missionary.
Oh.
Please donate money. And it's just a funniest joke. It's hilarious. But you got to go out there and see it.
I definitely will. As soon as I get off of here, I'll go look for it. But I do have to say I kind of agree in general that other people my age are kind of lazy. But yeah, I mean, if you think about it, how we grew up, we've just had all this extra technology and stuff in our lives that has made things a lot easier. So you don't really have to, I don't know, work as hard. In general, you don't have to work as hard, coming up through school and all that stuff, because you've got the computer there. I mean, I grew up with calculus. I didn't have a slide rule or a calculator. I didn't have a slide rule at all. So math was a whole lot easier for us.
Now on Dental Town, are you Dr. Teeth?
I am.
My God, there's so many people that are going to want to watch this. I mean, dude, you have like 12,744 posts. There are so many people that are going to want to meet the man behind all these posts. You're you're a legend on Dental Town.
Thank you.
There's 250,000 dentists. I don't think there's 100 that have 12,000 posts.
I believe it.
Yeah, I want to.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say most of it's joking around. I try not to be too serious all the time. I mean, you have to be serious with patients a lot, and you may get a lot of energy bottled up and stuff, and you have to let it out. And one way to do it is joking around with your colleagues on a message board.
But I want you to talk to your colleagues right now because posting versus lurking. When you study communities, and it doesn't
Huh?
matter, and it's not just Dental Town, there's ample data from communities of engineers, programmers, whatever. Sapien does not likes to fly below the radar. Sapien doesn't like to be transparent. They don't like to climb up the pole and have everybody look at them. And I get so many emails, and I just always think to myself, well, why don't you post this on Dental Town? I mean, why would you just want my opinion? Why wouldn't you want to start a discussion? Plus, I'm in Phoenix, and you're in Florida, and I'm sure there's a lot of differences in Florida. And this is a root canal question. Wouldn't you want endodontists to chime in? They're always afraid. They're always afraid. Why are you not afraid to post 12,000 times? But it's the same on Facebook. The average person on Facebook has 140 followers. And if you scroll down the deal, it's like not even 5% of all their friends are doing all the posting. And you go open up any profile, most everyone hasn't made a post in 6 months. Why do you post and 99% of people in social media just lurk?
Uh, yeah, I'm not sure. I know, when I first got onto Dental Town, I did a lot of lurking. I didn't post very much the first few years after I had found the site. The first couple of posts that I made were looking for advice, and it's definitely fear. People are afraid that somebody's going to think you're stupid or you did bad work or something. I kind of wonder if dental school has to do with that, because you're so used to instructors just treating you like garbage, that you're afraid that if you talk to another dentist, they're going to do the exact same thing to you and just treat you like garbage and make you feel real bad about yourself. But I honestly can't think. I think really it's when I kind of started making a few friends and joking around and getting to know some of the other members. Once you kind of know a few people, it's a lot easier to throw an idea out there or make a comment on something, because you know that there's somebody out there that's kind of got your back, sort of. I know that my friend over here, he would put a crown on that tooth too, so I don't feel so bad saying I put a crown on there. And then if you get somebody who disagrees with you, well, it's just words on an internet message board. They're not really going to hurt you unless you let them.
Yeah, I always think it's success is so counterintuitive. And I've watched that Dental Town since 1998, and some of these kids will sit there and they'll be totally transparent and say, I'm going back to Parsons, Kansas, and there's 2 practices for sale, and then they give the names, the price, the website, just all the detail. And then for free, all of these smart older consultants and CPAs and practice managers, they're all just tearing this deal apart. And he's getting all of that for free. And then he tells you, okay, I followed your advice. I bought this one. And gosh, it's free advice from your peers. I mean, if you go to a convention, everybody giving you advice is trying to sell you something. If you ask for
Yeah.
advice on Dental Town, your peers are trying to help you. You know?
Yeah. Yes. And sometimes you don't like the advice that people give you, but it's still valuable advice.
Yeah, I mean, humans are complex. They're the most complex thing in the solar system. I mean, there's nothing close to the complexity of the human. Um, I don't know if people like you and me just have thick skin. I don't think I have thick skin. I think it's the fact that I just see the person disagreeing with you or saying something crazy is. I mean, they're upright walking apes. I mean, they're monkeys without tails. I mean, it's not like a supreme being said you're wrong. I mean, it's just. I mean, I love humans, and they're just humans. I mean, they're batshit crazy. Something you said earlier. You said this dentist that's working for you is 69 and he works 6 days a week. Then when he cut back to 5, he dropped Monday, and that is so profound because humans believe so many myths that they tell themselves. They just everything they believe, they tell themselves. And they always tell themselves in dentistry that no one will show up on Saturday. But when you look at the data, I mean, when you look at people that open Saturdays, I mean, every office you walk into, they'll say, oh, our biggest day of our week is always Saturday. The appointment scheduled out the furthest in advance is the 7 a.m. before 8 o'clock, or the 5 o'clock to 6 o'clock appointment after work, and Saturdays. And how old are your kids?
I have a 4-year-old and a 2-year-old.
So is Saturdays more valuable to you being married with 2 kids? I mean, when a kid's 2 and 4, I mean, hell, they don't know what day of the week it is. If you did 4 days, so many millennials pick Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, when I think the old man at 69 called it right. Saturday's worth more than Mondays, because the Federal Reserve says there's 322 million Americans, and 145 million of them have no access to care Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, because they work for a company. They don't work for the Fortune 500. They don't work for the middle market of 1,000 and over. They work for these small businesses. And like in a dental office, I mean, you can't have your receptionist just pick up at 10 o'clock on Monday and go to a doctor's appointment. No one will even be answering the phone. So are you willing, do you think more millennials should work Saturday, Friday, work Saturday and give up one of the Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday weeks?
I think it would be beneficial. My own personal experience, I do work one Saturday a month in the office, other than my military obligation. And I've found that it's either feast or famine, either like everybody and their mothers coming in, busting down the door, trying to get in to see you, or the weather's kind of nice and nobody shows up. But Saturdays usually, more often than not, are very busy. So if you don't have other stuff tying you up, you probably are better off being open on a Saturday. Long term, though, once you start getting older, if your practice is built entirely on people who depend on your Saturdays or evening hours, you might start running into trouble if you start thinking of trying to scale that back to then start going to your kids' soccer games and stuff on Saturdays. That's my only hesitation, is if you have a practice full of people who depend on the Saturday or evening hours, and then you want to change it, you might have some difficulty getting new patients to fill those different time slots.
Or find some young kid out of school that's looking for a job.
You could do that too.
There's just so many cultural things that affect, like in dentistry, they all work Monday through, they work 4 days a week. Whereas our physician colleagues routinely work in hospitals on 24-hour shifts. I mean, you couldn't get a 24-hour dental office going if you had to, because no one would work the hours. I always make the example of culture. Like in Phoenix, the Italian pizza deliveries will deliver to your house. The Chinese restaurants, the Chinese will deliver to your house, but not one Mexican restaurant will. And so, Mexicans just don't deliver. And they tell themselves they don't do that. And the Chinese, they do it. All the pizzerias, they do it. And I just think in Phoenix, like right now, the metro is 4 million. And I've been trying to get my team to say, let's just go 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. We got 2 dental schools in town. We'll just hire, and they just look at me like, are you out of your mind? And it's like, well, how come I can have a heart attack in the middle of the night and they'll take me to a hospital fully staffed, but 8% of the emergency room visits are dental related? In fact, I know now some dental offices now that are just only going in across adjacent from emergency rooms. So where, they have a relationship, everybody at the hospital knows they're right across the street, and they're just fed from the emergency room all night long. I mean, all day long.
Wow.
I mean, just always.
Yeah.
So I think interesting. So that guy's still working at 69?
Yes.
And how long do you think he'll work?
And he's still going real strong. He and I we've discussed that after I take ownership, he's going to associate for me for a while, maybe cut back a little bit more. But I joke, and I'm only half joking when I say I think I'm just going to find him one morning when I come into the office there. I think he's going to die with a handpiece in his hand. He's
Right
just that
on.
type of guy.
Well, the dentists I've known my whole life that lived to be the oldest, they always work the longest. I mean, they like the dentist I grew up with next door to me, Kenny Anderson. He just celebrated his 50th anniversary of his dental office, and he's still 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And I mean, if you ask him, you're going to slow down. I mean, he don't even know what you're talking about. I mean, it's just his routine.
Yeah.
It's his routine.
Yeah.
I just think it's amazing.
Yeah.
So on Dental Town, you said a lot of it's social. Have you learned a lot of technique in endo, perio, clinical
Oh,
dentistry?
definitely. Yeah. I'm always on the lookout for new clinical threads to get advice and stuff. I spent a lot of time on oral surgery stuff, getting some tips for taking out teeth, and different endodontic techniques, and there's some real good threads out there about searching for MB2 and things of that nature. And, talking about different products and things are great too. Getting people's take and how they do things and seeing results and stuff. I got a lot of clinical stuff those first few years that I was looking at Dental Town, and every once in a while I pick something up again. But it seems like it's getting a little harder to find some of the good stuff. It could just be because I'm spending more time with the social stuff and not quite as much time combing through all the clinical threads. But I'm sure there's still a lot of stuff out there.
And you do it more through the PC or the app?
It depends on if I'm sitting at my desk or if I'm out at lunch or whatever. I'll do both. I think stuff tends to show up a little bit better on the PC. So I'll do a lot of stuff on the PC.
Have you taken much online CE?
Yes, I do. I do a lot of that. Not as much as I think the average person does, because one of the perks that I have with the National Guard is they'll pay $2,500 towards course fee and travel expenses, plus pay me salary to go on a CE trip up to 5 days. So every year I go down.
Meeting.
I've got a friend that does that every year. But I usually pick a course and go, and it's nice because I actually make a little bit of money after making kind of a little vacation out of it.
Right on. So you've never been to a townie meeting yet?
I have not yet. I was considering going next year, but there's some things with my schedule to be determined here in the near future as to whether or not I'll be able to go.
We're doing something different. This April will be our 15th annual townie meeting, which the townie meeting was originally designed because people are talking to each other on Facebook all day. Like I knew you as Dr. Teeth, and then when I'm meeting you, I didn't know that was, I didn't know that's what you look like, and I didn't know all this about you.
Right.
So the people wanted to meet in the flesh of the people they're talking to all day. But next year, we signed up. We just signed the contract. We're doing it in Orlando. 15 years we've done it in Vegas.
Really?
But 3 out of 4 Americans live east of the Mississippi River, and only 1 in 4 live west of the Mississippi. So we're out there in Vegas, and it's only 1/4. And the density of dentists along the East Coast, and so Florida's huge number of dentists. And then in every dentist in New Jersey and New York, they only dream about Florida. And so we're just going to, try something new. It's been our brand for 15 years to be in Vegas, but we're going to try Orlando and see how that works. Maybe you'll take your kids to Mickey Mouse.
Disney. Yeah. That would be a selling point for the wife.
Yeah. So who are the favorite people you like to follow on Dental Town?
Lane Ochi, he's a real good one. I absolutely love everything that he puts on there.
Do you know he's our he's one of the most viewed online CE. I mean, when he puts up an online CE course, that's always right up there as the most popular.
Yeah, he's got some really great stuff to teach folks. I like looking at a lot of the oral surgery stuff, like jaw in a day threads and stuff like that. When I started dental school, I originally wanted to be an orthodontist, and very quickly decided I didn't want to do that after we actually started doing hands-on stuff. And I thought that surgery was going to be a big turnoff for me, and turns out it's actually my favorite aspect of dentistry now.
Ortho
so
is your
just
favorite?
getting in and seeing, I guess. Oh no, oral surgery.
Oh, oral surgery. Okay.
Yeah, placing implants, extractions. I don't know, more blood and guts, the better.
Yeah, that's it's kind of interesting because it seems like you either love blood and guts and go into oral surgery, placing implants, sinus lifts, or you don't like blood and you go into ortho, Invisalign, sleep apnea, cosmetic dentistry. And I also noticed that a lot of the people, when they start getting older and they start losing their hands and their eyes, and they start migrating away from blood and guts and going into ortho, Invisalign, sleep apnea. But yeah, I'm with you.
Yeah.
I mean, if I could just do one thing all day long the rest of my life, it would just be wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
that's
could definitely take out.
and my staff has gotten so mad at me for 29 years because a lot of times people will come in and they'll fail the FA. But if they fail the FA and it's wisdom teeth, I'm just like, oh, well, what can they pay? Then say, are you serious? Is they're gonna go tell all their friends? I'm like, I'm not letting that set walk out of here. That is amazing.
Yeah.
And plus it only takes me 5 minutes. I mean, I can pull any 4 wisdom teeth. I'd say 99% of the time, any 4 wisdom teeth, 5 minutes.
Yeah.
I mean, just love it. God, I love it. So Lane Ochi, who else?
Gosh, I'm trying to think of who I've got subscriptions to. I follow. I followed Gigi.
Oh yeah.
She's pretty funny if you get to know her. I actually designed her avatar that she's got on Dental Town. She asked me to do that for her.
Pull it up, Ryan.
Yes, I did.
And what'd you design it on?
I used an app on my phone. I just cut and paste, put some stuff together.
Now, Gigi, if you haven't seen her podcast, I podcasted her. Well, she's one of the first ones I did. She's such a unicorn in the fact that she has no employees.
She is.
So she has the lowest
herself.
overhead in the United States, and probably she won't. I mean, I don't want to say, but damn near the highest net. And so many people are in this factory of having 5, 6 chairs and all this business and admin staff and hygienists and this and that. And her patients go, oh, I like that Tinkerbell with an extraction. Oh my God, that is so cool. It's Tinkerbell with what is that, a 151 or 150?
That's actually an ash forceps, which is a little funny because she said she'd never use an ash to extract a molar.
Spell ash.
ASH.
It's an ash forceps?
That's what I was taught, in school.
And that's a bloody tooth in there?
It's a bloody tooth.
It's so funny.
She had me add sparkles on there too.
And Gigi's also real interesting. She's really pioneering a new thing in dentistry, which is the private message board. So we have the whole message board functionality, but anybody can go set up a private group to where whoever sets it up is the one who can let people in or out of the group. And are you in any private groups?
Yes, I am. That's kind of some of the social stuff I was mentioning earlier. A lot of that takes place on the private stuff.
What percent of the time are you in the private groups?
Probably about maybe like 60 or 70%.
Wow. And how many different private groups are you in?
Just one.
Just one? And how do townies find the private groups? Tell them how would they find them? How would they, if someone wanted to be in your group, like one of your homies listening to this says, I want to be in your group. How does that even work?
You can. I'm trying to think. If you go onto the right hand, if you're on the computer and you go onto the right hand column where you've got messages, recent posts, and stuff, there's a menu item that says My Private Groups. You can click on there, and if you're not in any groups, there's there's a search for groups function where you can click and it'll pull up all the different private groups that are open to public, and you can ask for access.
And how many private groups you think there are in Dentaltown?
Oh gosh, I have no idea. I haven't looked.
Can you find out, Ryan?
I just
Huh. Yeah, that was an interesting feature. And again, it goes to what I asked you about earlier. There's so many people. There's hundreds of them. It all comes back to that lurker posting thing. I mean, I still don't know what makes you and I and Gigi differently. I don't know if it's when we walk, our balls drag on the sidewalk, or our skin so thick you can't cut it. I don't know what's going on, because they just kept saying, well, I would post on Dentaltown if it was just with me and my 4 classmates from the University of Buffalo. And we're like, all right, well, this is what it takes for this guy to talk and get help and discuss cases. We got 5 programmers. We'll always have 5 programmers. We're always a year and a half behind on all the wish list. I mean,
right.
we've been a year and a half behind what townies have been asking us to do since 1998. It's never going to change. And so I just thought, I just want you to be healthy and happy, and that no dentist have to practice solo again. And if you'll only talk to a select group of people, then we'll do it. And now Ryan says we have hundreds of those groups. I'm not in any of them. Gosh, I just wish you and I could figure out what could make a lurker. It reminds me when I was little. My dad, back then the old main bicycle was a Schwinn, and I had a problem with my bike, and my dad came home, and back then you popped the Lincoln Town Car, and you could put the 10-speed in there with a kickstand down and literally shut it. I mean, these things were just 8-cylinder, just mooses. And I went there, and he pulled up the door and he popped the trunk. So I got out and I pulled my bike out, and then I rolled around down. I said, well, are you going in with me? He goes, no. And I said, you're not going in there with me? And he goes, no. I said, well, what do you want me to tell him? He goes, well, what do you mean, what do you want me to tell him? He goes, tell him you're Clem Claddettle Hopper and you want your tennis racket restrung. Howie, if you can't take a bicycle in there and tell that man what you told me, then I'm going to quit feeding you, because there's no sense in wasting everyone's time. And I just realized, like, yeah, why am I afraid to go tell the bike shop guy what I told my old man? I mean, I don't know why. It's because we're social animals, and they're just so complex. So how often do you get in trouble from your wife for being on Dentaltown?
It used to be more. I've gotten sneakier.
Tell us some of your sneak habits. How can you go check out Dentaltown without your wife finding out?
Well, the first secret is you have to convince a doctor to tell your wife that you have irritable bowel syndrome. And then you get a free pass to head into the bathroom and pull up the Dentaltown tap anytime you want. It works in the office, too.
Now, that's another thing people talk about posting. They're afraid that if they post on Dentaltown that one day their hygienist or assistant or office manager is going to find out and read everything they're saying, and that would be a disaster.
Well, you just be anonymous. You don't have to tell anybody who you are. I have my name in my signature line because I don't care if anybody knows what my name is, but I also have an extremely common name, so it may not be the easiest to find me. But you don't have to tell anybody who you are. I know that Howard Goldstein's pretty good about getting on top of people for identifying folks. If somebody figures out who somebody is, he'll come down on you for revealing somebody's identity if they want to remain anonymous.
Yeah, Howard's when did look on the chart? When did Howard join the team? He was a dentist with 30,000 posts, and it took me years of trying to get him to sell his office and come work full time on Dentaltown, because he was the one who pioneered the report abuse button. So if you say something and somebody makes you feel bad, then you hit report abuse, and the thread goes to Howard Goldstein. When 2010. 2010. So he's been there. Howard Goldstein was January 1, 2010. So 6 years, coming up on 7. And and then he very good at analytical. But if someone's asking for help and you make them feel bad, well, they're already being made feel bad by insurance companies, upset patients, staff, crazy staff. Dentaltown is a private place to go, and it should be like a fraternity, sorority of your peers, and you should go there and not be made to feel bad. So if you're afraid, or if you're reading something and you get the intuition, like you're reading something, you think, God, that guy's really being a jerk, hit the report abuse. I mean, I do not want that
Yeah.
community to be a place where people are afraid to go. It should be a private refugee. I mean, you got to be a registered member. You don't have to worry about non dental people on that site like Facebook. You don't know who's reading your post, but yeah. So what's got you? What are you the most passionate about now? What's got you most excited in dentistry?
I started placing dental implants, I think about 2 years ago, a little over a year ago. And I absolutely love doing that. It's kind of up with the blood and guts stuff. It was something that I wanted to get into while I was in school. I kind of saw it as the future of dentistry, and I just started placing them. I just do easy ones at this point. A few years of doing that, maybe I'll get into more complex stuff, but that's exciting to me.
Where did you go for training, and
Yeah.
what system did you go with?
Well, the dentist that I work with, I think he heard about the company OsteoReady from another interview somewhere, and it piqued his interest, and he went to the course and then said, "Hey, I liked it." He sent me to the course, and so we started placing those. The system is very similar to Blue Sky Bio, I think. I think it's a Blue Sky Bio clone.
Is it Blue Sky Bio?
I think so. I could be wrong about the what system it's modeled after.
So you did the 2-day mini residency,
That's correct.
and how many? And you're glad you're doing it. You're implementing it. You're doing them.
Yes, yeah, I am. I'm placing them, and I've got a hunger for different knowledge with that. So I subscribe to the implant threads on Dental Town, and I read a lot of those to try and get tips and information from those guys and other people, in the trenches doing all that sort of stuff. And I had a pretty heavy implant curriculum in school, so I had a pretty good base knowledge. It was really just kind of getting that final push to really just start doing it. That mini residency I did was kind of that little push to get started.
Well, it is now 5 o'clock on a Wednesday, and the next thing up is tomorrow, Thanksgiving. What are your plans for Thanksgiving tomorrow?
I'm going to eat a whole lot of food, probably get sick and throw up.
And there's 3 NFL games on tomorrow.
I'm sure there will be one on. We're going over to my wife's family's house, so I'm sure there's going to be one on TV. But I usually get stuck on kid duty, which is okay.
Yeah, well, right on. Well, hey, I just want to tell you seriously, huge. It's so fun to put the face and the man behind Dr. Teeth and his 12,744 post. It's also so great to get a millennial on. I'm sure you connect more with dental students and people that are a couple of years out of school more than they connect with an old fart like me. And thank you so much for all that you do for dentistry, all that you do for Dental Town. I just want to tell you, seriously, dude, I'm your biggest fan.
Oh, well, thank you very much. You too.
All right, well, have a rocking good Thanksgiving.
I will. Thanks. You too.